Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me for the first Q&A on name, image, and likeness. I am Savanya DeBrowse, the protector of athletes, also the author of 2 best-selling books, What Are You Sporting About? And here recently, Athletes Making Moves. So if you haven't gotten that book, make sure that you go to our website at athletesmakingmoves.com so that you can get your copy. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen so that you guys can see my presentation. All righty, so as you know, everything in this presentation, it is my particular intellectual property. Do not copy, distribute, or use without consent, unless it's just general use or fair use, as we call in the law. So did you miss our book launch? Because we had so much fun. You can still get access to all the content that, oh my gosh, that we introduced at the Athletes Making Moves book launch. Make sure that you ask me how you can do this. But one way that you can is definitely making sure that you get the book, because you'll be able to register your book, which will have the full replay available for you. Hello, everybody, and welcome again to Athletes Making Moves book launch. I am Savanya DeBarros, the protector of athletes. Now, something new, where we're stretching ourselves to not only think different, but we're challenging ourselves with newer norms. And how will we take grasp of the opportunities that are right before us? About companies who have power, we know that universities and athletic associations have all the power because they have all the money, they make all the decisions, which is one reason why student athletes have waited so long to even have this opportunity. So now when a student athlete has a potential for a contract, or let's just say they want to, when they graduate college and they want to use the logo that the school has created for them, you don't own it.
You don't take it free and clear.
You can't say no.
Even if you don't think that you can make it, still shoot the shot, because you never know, it might just land.
So yeah, I had so much fun at the book launch, so make sure you get your copy. Also, we are launching a new book club around Athletes Making Moves, because there's so much content that is in this book, and it's not just, you know, a fly-by-night type of information. This is very substantive information. And so I want to have a place where we can talk about each chapter, and that will also go into a portal where you can access that information. So we're going to be launching this spring of 2022. If you want to be a part of the book club, make sure that you already have a copy of the book prior to launching, and then you will be enrolled at a special member rate. All right. So let's get into it. What is name? What is name? Because we're now in NIL season, right? And a lot of student athletes are trying to find out how can they monetize their name. Okay, so we hear it all together with name, image, and likeness, but essentially we're looking at the student athlete trying to figure out what is it that they can do to make income based on their name. All right, so most states identify or define this as the first or last name or the nickname of a student athlete when used in a context that reasonably identifies the student athlete with particularity. So that's coming from a quote around the Illinois name, image, and likeness statute, and it's in our book, Athletes Making Moves. So here are some examples of issues around name. And I like to think of name, because it is, as an intellectual property asset. A lot of people don't think of it that way because your mom gave you the name, your dad gave you your name. So you just simply think that, okay, well, it's just my name. There's nothing really that grand about it. right? But you would be wrong. So here are some issues where we have seen name drum up so many problems. So a defamation suit was brought by Tom Cruise. He sued a porn actor for $10 million. So this gay actor claimed that he had an affair with Cruise. And that also caused him to have his marriage ended with Nicole Kidman. So that's a way where you want to make sure that you're protecting your name, okay? Whether you have to file a suit or what have you, you want to do whatever it takes to make sure that you protect your name. Have you ever heard of Roy Halston? Because Roy Halston was a famous guy during his time who created a shoe brand. And then he ventured out and he made dresses, hats, and all types of things. Well, Roy did something by signing his name away, meaning anything else that he may have wanted to create with his name later on, he was banned from doing so because he sold the rights to his name. And then I know you guys know about the cloth, Kawhi Leonard. So if you're looking at this picture here, you see the K and the L there. Those are his initials. And what do we say? What was name, right? Name is the first or last name, initials, or something that can identify the individual with particularity. Well, this claw design can definitely identify Kawhi Leonard, right? But we all know of the issues that he ran into around this design and not properly protecting it, or at least maybe not having the right contractual language to protect taking that cloth design to a different shoe brand. So I didn't know I was me. This is a documentary of Mary J. Blige, and she sitting in an interview and she says, I didn't know I was me. And that thing just like really drummed up in my spirit because I said, wow, what does that mean? Like, what do you think about when you hear that? I didn't know I was me. Mary could not appreciate the success that she had on the outside because she said for so long she didn't have success on the inside. And so all of the things that happened to her, it was hard to deal with them because she didn't know that there was this beautiful and successful and strong and resilient woman that was there for her, which in itself, it was her, but she didn't know that she had that, right? And so I want you to think about this concept around name. A lot of people don't know that at the end of the day, your name may be the thing that carries on for generations, right? Your name is, in fact, your legacy. But if you don't plan tomorrow for who you will be in 5 years, you will always stay in this mundane area because you just had no idea. You didn't know that you were yourself, that you were capable of creating something that would be amazing and that other people would appreciate. So who are you? Do you know who you are? Do you know what it is that you have? Do you know how much power your name has behind it? It's time for you to start thinking about that today. So when we think about name, or when I think about name, I think about people who are just doing stuff. They're not really planning anything. They're not protecting anything. And that's what you need to do. When there's something that drums up in you and you say, okay, I want to do this, or I want to do that. First off, why? And then two, how can I protect this for the future? A lot of people have a huge problem with thinking that there is anything substantive or worth anything because they haven't made, for instance, any money on it, right? But if you keep working at the things that you're creating, including your name, you have no idea what it may be worth 10 years down the line. So stop just doing. Make sure that you plan and you protect what you create along the way. So think about people who write a book. You write a book, but then you don't copyright the book. You don't have any federal protections, right? Or you create a course, but you don't even trademark the course. You create a company, but You don't have a will, you don't have a succession plan. That is people that are just doing. They're living in the moment, but they're not living for their future, right? And that's a dangerous thing. So do you really want people to put respect on your name? Because I do. I want people to put respect on my name, Savania, right? But first you have to do it. And you can do it in 3 ways. So tip 1, set a real plan around what your future looks like. There are too many people who just start day and go day by day by day, and they never think about the big picture. The only way we get to the success that we think we want is by drawing out the big picture, and then we work backwards from there. That's tip 2. So you want to set goals to work backwards from what your big picture looks like so you can be successful. And tip 3 is surround yourself with like-minded people who are also hungry, and don't be afraid to ask questions or ask for help. As an athlete myself, a former athlete, I do know that sometimes there's a pride component that kicks in that will keep us from asking for the help that we need and that we may also desire. So we want to make sure that we're continuously moving forward in our future, in the game plan that we've set for ourselves, by making sure that we can step outside of whatever those mechanisms are that may be holding us back from our own type of issues, right? And going and get the help that we need so that we can succeed at the end of the day. All right, so protect your name in all business relationships, and especially where you intend to create some major intellectual property from your name, it should always be protected. And this is going to be my area where I tell you, definitely make sure that you have counsel involved. Too many people are creating business plans only just, and when I say business plans, like your only legal strategy is making sure that you have a federal trademark or copyright. That's not going to work. That's not going to work, because there's so many different things that can come up where you need counsel to help you to sort through those issues, and also possibly prosecute a claim on your behalf to ensure that your name stays protected. So if we think back to the example before with Tom Cruise, he had to sue somebody to make sure that his name was protected, so other people know you can't try me with defaming my name. My name has value, right? It's worth something. It's worth something, right? And so that's why it's necessary to have counsel involved. Also, you can protect your name through contracts, but sometimes, and I've seen this by representing businesses, and this is not just like a small $40,000, $50,000 business. I've seen issues come up in businesses that are making multi-million-dollar businesses, okay? Where people have not properly protected themselves or their intellectual property in the writings that are simply supposed to guide their relationship, their business relationship. So when you're creating something on around your name, and especially now that we're looking at this NIL era, you want to make sure that your name, your intellectual property remains yours, right? That is protected in your contract. There's a limitation on what people can do, how long they can use it if you've granted use of it. But you also need to make sure that it's federally protected to help bolster the protection around it. So ownership of your name. Who owns what? So when we start dipping and diving and creating these fluid relationships, and I say fluid because a lot of people don't know how to run real businesses. They just start creating relationships and they say, oh, well, can you do this with me? Or will you do such and such with me? Okay, cool. Let's sign up a contract, if they even do that, right? So who owns what? Did you sort this out from the inception of the relationship? Or is this a question now that you're having to ask yourself because issues have surfaced? What I found to be most helpful with my clients is it's always easier to talk about ownership of issues or how we're going to resolve matters at the beginning of the relationship. Okay. Everybody is friendly and are more eager to resolve whatever issues that may come up at that time. Right. But what you also want to do is, as the relationship develops, as things change, as additional things are created, even if it's things that are created around your name, if you are the person who are creating things, you're going to want to go back in and tighten up whatever agreements that you have to make sure that you retain that ownership. All right. So I also want you to think about the brand you create around your name. Think of protector of athletes. What comes to your mind? You can drop it in the chat. What comes to your mind when you think of protector of athletes? So if you've been following me, you know that that's my nickname. That's my brand nickname, protector of athletes. But my family nickname is Vonnie, right? So what people may think of as, you know, from protector of athletes versus hearing Vonnie, they may have a different idea, or it may sound different or have a different feeling to them just because of who I am to them, right? So someone says, someone who makes sure athletes don't get taken advantage of. Thank you so much for that. So I can't remember why I started calling myself a protector of athletes, but I know that I am a protector. I'm the eldest of 4, and I've always, in a way, just kind of been a protector of people. But after representing businesses for a while, I noticed that they needed protection. And then that led into knowing that athletes needed protection because they were making some of the same mistakes over and over again, but they also had professionals on their team who weren't protecting them, right? So when you think of protector of athletes, I want you to think of someone who absolutely takes protection of that athlete seriously. Okay, so what do you want people to think of first when they hear your name? And this is part of the branding around creation of your name. So when you see Steve Madden or hear of Steve Madden, what do you think about? When you hear Colin Kaepernick, what do you think about? And I'll tell you what I think about Steve Madden. I automatically think about comfortable shoes. This was the first shoe brand that I experienced as a young teenager. One of my aunts gave me a pair of her Steve Madden shoes, and they were beautiful and they were so comfortable. And I think I wore those shoes out until I could not wear them again. Okay. Colin Kaepernick, I think about the football player, the publisher, the advocate for social justice, you know, someone who took a stand by himself, the loan shark, for example, without anyone supporting him. He stood for what he believed in. And to me, his name has so much meaning and so much more worthiness to it because he was able to stand in his own truth. So I also want you to think about, are you trustworthy while you're building your name or brand around your name? And are you credible? So you want to make sure that you keep your promises to the people that you're doing business with. If you have products, you want to make sure that you're keeping your promises with that. And if you can't, like if there's something that happens and you just can't, well, then it's important that you provide an alternative solution, but you must do it quickly and you must properly and timely communicate. So for example, when I launched my book, there were some issues that came up with the prints that we ordered. I had to make sure I communicated these issues with our pre-order people because they've been waiting longer than other people to get their book because they ordered in the pre-order phase, right? So I want to make sure that I provide a good customer service to them, but I also want them to know that we have not forgotten about you. So one thing that I did when we got the books was I included the book as well as an additional gift, right? And I also, in the midst of all of that, I made sure that I promptly and timely communicated with them. So you want your brand to be trustworthy. You want it to be credible. All right, guys. So do we have any questions? Any questions? And then next week, next month, I'm gonna come back and talk about image. And then the last Q&A will be on likeness. Do we have any questions? And if we do, you can drop that in the chat and I'll go ahead and tell you guys where to get the book. You can go to athletesmakingmoves.com/shop. Today, we reached Amazon bestsellers list, and I'm super proud and excited about that. You can also get a copy of the Kindle. We have it at 99 cents this week only. This week only. We may go and do a different campaign next week, but for this week only, we have this for 99 cents. It's the same content, same great content, just for a very low price on the Kindle version, and you can read it automatically on Amazon.com. All right, make sure that you join our new book club that's going to launch spring 22. All you got to do is simply purchase your paperback or hardcover book, and then we're going to have an announcement to go out like right before we launch it, and we're also going to give those who have purchased their book during this year a special pricing to the book club. All right. And so just as a reminder, our next Q&A will be October 7th, 2021. If you've already registered for this Q&A, you'll automatically get the updates and the reminders. So just make sure that you come to that, or just keep checking your email. But you can also follow us on IG and Facebook at Athletes Making Moves, because we post a lot of updates there. Right, and I see that we have a question, so I'm going to answer this. All right, so is there an Illinois law that allows high school athletes to use their name, image, and likeness? So this is an issue around technically minors being in the, having contract deals in a way, right? So technically, there is no law that's preventing high school students from utilizing their name, image, and likeness, but you will run into some issues around, you run into some issues around being a minority, right? So who's handling the business deals for these student athletes? There are a lot of unanswered questions in regards to what will that look like when that high school athlete is getting ready to transfer, or not transfer, but go into college, because there are a lot of rules around an active student athlete and when their NIL contract has to begin or stop. And so that's something that you want to think about. But right now, there is no such rule preventing high school students from earning on their NIL. Is there a difference or issue for NAIA athletes looking at NIL as opposed to Division I athletes? So each division is going to set essentially like their rubric of what they want student athletes to follow, but the law is the law. So each athletic association has to be in compliance with what the rule of law is on the books. So the only difference I would say is what NAIA, and if you say Division I athletes, are you talking about the NCAA Division I athletes? So the NAIA may have different rules as it pertains maybe to their colleges on how they want the colleges to follow disclosure rules of whether a student athlete has received an NIL contract, how they're going to dispel of conflict of interest, how they're going to provide workshops. There may be all different types of things that the NAIA wants their schools to do that maybe the NCAA may not want, right? Or maybe the NCAA may impose something different that the NAIA want. So what you will want to do is look at your particular school that your student athlete will be enrolled in and see what is their protocol, because each state, although they have their own NIL rule, we're getting into the weeds here where each school also may have a different protocol of how they want to handle certain things. And then of course, depending on the state that you may be in, that can completely look different. Okay, next question. All right, so if as a family we started a clothing line and there is an image that resembles one of my children, that's an athlete? Is there something we need to be concerned about with her going to college for her own personal NIL? Possibly. I would say definitely book a consult with me so we can dive deeper into this to see what the issue really is. There could be some form of an intellectual property violation. So there's something different where you can protect your name with the Right of Publicity Act. Certain states have them, some don't. But definitely book a call with me so that we can talk further about this. And I'll put the law firm website. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. And like I said, October 7th, we'll be back for another Q&A, and we're going to focus on the I in NIL image and how you want to make sure that you protect your image. All right. Thank you so much. Ciao.